to help you pick those dreams back up and to pursue them again. Now, I want you to understand, I started DawnDares2Dream because I wanted to relay my message and my heart and my feelings across to whomever would listen. It can be difficult getting your closest family and friends to understand the way that you believe and when you try to express it and share it. So this was like my backdoor way into letting everybody know. Now, I may have lost some viewers as a result of that because they don't agree, and that's fine. I am definitely a proponent of everyone having their own thoughts, their own process, their own mindset that works for them. Your religion works for you, you keep that. No one's telling you to get rid of that. Whatever it is that works for you, continue to use it. I'm just saying that sprinkle some of this other information on it, this personal development information that I'm providing you, and see where your life takes you and how you take off personally. Take it out. But always remember, we are in control of how we see our environment. I don't care what everyone says it looks like or everyone says it is. We are in control of how we choose to perceive the environment as well. Hey dreamers, welcome back. And thank you to all the new dreamers who stopped by DawnDares2Dream today to see what we're all about. Well, today it's Happy Hour Friday! Happy Hour Friday! That's my little jingle for Fridays. I really love my Fridays. I've always loved my Fridays. And I'm learning to love my Fridays more with working from home because of the pandemic. But it's Happy Hour Friday. And today we are going to make a mezcal drink. And I've made, I think, 1 or 2 others in my playlist you can go take a look at. Now, I'm realizing with my cocktail playlist, I don't necessarily tell you the type of liquor that's in the beverage. So I think what I need to do is go back through that list. There are like 19 videos in there right now. So there are 19 different drinks that are listed, but you have no idea. So I think I'm going to go back and how each one is titled. I'm going to change the title so that you know it's a vodka drink, a rum drink, a whiskey drink. So that way you can identify it. It's it's a gin drink. You know, you can't really identify it right now. So I'm going to go back and change that. So that way you don't have to watch all of them. You can kind of look around for what you're trying to drink that day and see if you have the ingredients or if you want to go purchase them. As well as making this, and I don't remember the name of this drink because I believe it was something Spanish and I couldn't pronounce it. So I'll have to put the name of this drink in the description for this video. And that's where you'll be able to find it. So that way you can go look up the exact drink. Now, as well as talking about the drink and happy hour and how fun it is and nice it is to be here on a Friday, I also want to share with you my bipolar journey. We're still on that. And today we're going to talk about my family and friends and the closest people to me, how they reacted to me being diagnosed as a bipolar person. Now, you have to remember that this is through my eyes and what I felt. But the next thing I want to say, you know how you already have issues with your family and that you already feel some kind of way. So it's going to, I think, show in how I feel they were reacting to me when I got diagnosed. Because remember, I already had issues and I already felt like an outsider and an outcast in my family. And if you've been watching me and following along, in the first few videos that I've placed up here to YouTube, my personal development, random videos, I talked about feeling like an outsider and an outcast. So if I'm already feeling that way right here, and then you tell me I'm bipolar here, so my view on how my family reacted has a lot to do with what I felt my position was in my family. So we have to remember that the way that I feel about my family is going to also skew maybe what reality was, but this was my reality, I'm gonna say. And as I go through this, what I want you to gather and obtain from it it's things kind of what not to do. I am going to go into a do's and don'ts when someone is just been diagnosed with a mental illness. I'm going to kind of go through what those items in the next video, but I need to talk about my perception of what happened so that when we get to the next video, you understand what my perspective was and why I am so adamant about these being the top do's and don'ts, at least from my perspective. So let me tell you what goes in this cocktail. So we have the mezcal. And you know, I bought this because of the bottle. I found a cocktail recipe. My first recipe that I did for Happy Hour Friday was a mezcal recipe. And I love this bottle. When I went to the liquor store, I saw this bottle and I said I had to have it. Now, we're also going to put in some fresh grapefruit juice. Now, you can use the bottle or the can if you like. We're going to use some fresh lime juice. And here we have some simple syrup, but it's flavored with rosemary. So we're going to garnish with rosemary and salt. This salt is grapefruit salt. The salt is definitely optional. You don't have to use the grapefruit salt or any salt at all, but I like the way that it makes the drink look, so I'm doing the grapefruit salt. And that's everything that's in the drink. Now, how you make the simple syrup with rosemary, you just do equal parts sugar and water. I did a cup of water, a cup of sugar, and then 2 sprigs of the rosemary, 2 little stalks. I stuck them in the water and let it sit and boil. And once the water comes to a boil, then you turn it off so it can cool down and become the syrup. But I left my rosemary in there through the entire process. And I tasted this, and it's so good. Like, it tastes like simple syrup, tastes like sugar, right? But it has that rosemary hint to it. I've always been hesitant to do a cocktail with a flavor of the simple syrup because I thought, man, why do we need to do that? As these recipes appear, I'm definitely going to try them out because this is some really good simple syrup, and I know it's going to complement the mezcal very well. So now we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do is, of course, we're going to put ice in our shaker. And we're going to now juice the actual grapefruit so that we have an ounce of it, because we're going to need an ounce of it for the actual cocktail. So let me get a knife and cut this in half. I'm going to cut this in half. And in the last video, I told you how I felt to be released from the hospital and the exhilaration that I felt, and I felt really empowered because now I knew what was going on with me, and I knew sort of a plan of action that I had been taught while I was in the hospital. Now, that was me and how I felt just in general being released. But I did have to interact with my family and friends. So one of the first things that I recall, I went to church. So that following Sunday, the next Sunday after I had been released, I went to church. And when I went to church, I felt like, you know, this was going to be a very good experience. The church that I was at was very supportive, had a very supportive environment, a really good youth program. And I just felt like it was going to be, or I was going to be welcomed with open arms. So I have to give you a little backstory about the church. My family, a few of my family members went to this church as well. So what I'm thinking occurred when they found out that I was bipolar, they told the pastor, and the pastor told some people, or they told everybody, and then they told the pastor. But I knew when I went to church that Sunday, there were a few people who knew that I had been committed. And it was just the way that they were reacting to me. Now, granted, again, this is from my perspective, but these individuals that were kind of acting a little strange, in my opinion, greeted me differently under normal circumstances. Like, I think I went in to get a hug from a person that I normally would get a hug from, and they kind of stuck their hand out to shake my hand. It was just really weird things that had occurred. So at that moment, I said, they must know. So the church service goes on, and then so we have the praise and worship, which I love praise and worship, by the way. So we had praise and worship, and then there was altar call. Now, I don't remember what the sermon was about. I think the sermon was about like being possessed and demons, and I had never heard my pastor talk about these things before. So I felt like the sermon was about me. Now, granted, this is from my eyes because I just got released from the hospital. He may have already planned that sermon, but I didn't feel like he had already planned it. So I think the sermon was about that. Then there was the altar call, and the altar call, nobody was going up, and it was dragging on and dragging on. And I kind of felt like it was dragging on because they wanted me to come up to the altar to get prayed for. Mind you, this is my perspective. So I go up there, and amazingly enough, once I get up to the altar, they pray for me or whatever they want to do, and then altar call is over. So I really feel like they were waiting for me. But I was hurt. I was crushed because I felt like, okay, me being bipolar is now being perceived from a negative perspective, and they are looking at it as a possession by a spirit or by a demon. So I'm like, okay, great. I'm not possessed by a demon or bipolar people, but that's what I got from it. And I said, okay, well, they're ignorant to what really goes on with mental illness, and this is what their assumption is, and this is what the way they want to take it. I will say, I appreciated, I guess, the attempt to care in some form or fashion, but I never went back to that church again. And to be honest with you, I have never really been to another church. That tainted me or spoiled me on church, because there are plenty mentally ill people in this world, and I don't believe that we are possessed, okay? I believe that we have chemical imbalances that need to be tended to like any other illness or disease. So I've never gone back to church since then. I still love God, Jesus, that's my friend. I love who Jesus was in the Bible and who he was to his fellow man. So I never said, forget religion, even though I'm not a religious person. I said, I can't do church, and I have not done church since. And I do the air quotes when I say church, because church is the building where the pastor is with the people who are members of that organization. That's church. But religion is a lot bigger than the building and the members and the pastor. It's about the belief system that everyone is in one accord with. And what I realized at that moment, if my mental illness is going to be perceived as this, I'm possessed with something, then this isn't the place for me. So I exited stage left. So that was my experience with church. Now, there were some people who I felt like stood up for me and were really there. My brother, when I came out the hospital, he checked on me. He would call me to make sure that I was okay. And I had actually purchased tickets to the symphony while I was manic, of course. But I've always wanted to go. And I used to play the violin, so it's not far-fetched, but it was nothing that I knew that I could do with the people that I hung out with. So I never engaged in the activity. But while I was manic, I was happy, I was euphoric, I bought some tickets to the symphony. So when I came out, I asked my brother to go with me because my brother is a musician, and he went and we had a really good time. I really enjoyed myself. I mean, I was all nice, dressed classy, and it was very therapeutic to do something that I always wanted to do after an experience like being hospitalized. So my brother was there for me, and I appreciate that. My mother was also there. I was having trouble prior to going in. Me and my cousin, we were roommates, but I don't think we were paying our rent on time. So we were kind of behind in our rent payments. And when I came out, my cousin moved out of the apartment. So that meant that one person who already didn't have her half of the rent had to pay the whole rent. And so my mother was like, well, I have this little bit extra and I can give it to you and I'll help you. And I thought that was so sweet of her, because my mother's a very irresponsible person when it comes to money, but she had some to help me out and to do something for me. And my mother stood up, I'm going to say, for me in that time. Another person who stood up for me was my best friend. We've been best friends for over 30 years now. And she just was there just as emotional support and wanted to make sure that I was really okay. She stood up for me. Who else stood up for me? My dad. Because it came to a point, and I'll get more into detail about this story later, where I had to leave my apartment because I was going to get evicted and I didn't have anywhere to go. And I will give you a list of reasons when we talk about that in another episode, why I didn't have anywhere to go. But I didn't have anywhere to go, so he called me and I ended up coming and moving to Texas, where I am, Houston, Texas. And these have been the best 18 years of my life. This is where my life transformed and changed into what you see it is today. This is where I learned that the law of attraction really does work. And it's not a game, you know? But it changed my life finding out that I was bipolar, because what I knew Baltimore, Maryland to be to me, my home, my love, my everything, I had to leave it so that I could be a better person, because I did not have a support system enough. I mean, my mother stood up, my brother stood up, but I needed to be embraced. And the fact that I felt alienated from the majority of the people in my life, you know, it was very hurtful. My job. They stood up. I worked for this Jewish family, and actually, when I was committed, I had to call them because I wasn't coming to work, and I told them I was in the hospital, and they were like, okay, and I let them know when I would be out, because I didn't know how long I was going to be in there. So, but did I tell them it was I don't know if I told them it was Springfield or not, and I think that's the name of the place. But anyway, that's not the point. So they stood up for me. When I got out of the hospital and I went to work and I explained to them, oh, I'm bipolar now, I got diagnosed, this happened, blah, 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 blah. And the girl, Kim, that I went to Georgetown with, she worked there as well. So they were cool. They were like, oh, yeah, we figured you probably was bipolar. Like, it was not a big deal to them. But then you look at the Jewish people that I work for, and then you look at the Black community that I came from, the church, the Black church that I attended, I felt alienated. The majority of my family members who knew about it, because remember, everybody didn't know, but the majority of the ones who knew about it, it was almost as if they had turned their backs on me, and I don't know if they meant to do that, but that's what it felt like. So, as much as I felt empowered, or I felt empowered getting out, it turned into, what in the world has happened? Now, I know I did some crazy things in my mania before I came down on the crash, which my aunt probably shared, but I don't think she shared in a sense that she was everybody to leave me alone and to run away. But that's kind of what happened. Even with my aunt, as close as we were, she was afraid of me. But that's when I realized that people just don't know what being bipolar is. And I didn't know at that time, 18 years ago, if I shared it, they would have received it. Now, all these same family members that I have not named, the only one I've named is my Aunt Rose, I still have relationships with. Things are different now. My life has grown and they've seen it. So I think the proof is in the pudding, as they say. Yes, I'm bipolar. But yes, I'm also a successful woman and I have an awesome career. So I just think that it was just the ignorance. And so I'm sharing now also, not just for the bipolar community, but for Black people with mental illness, or if you want to call yourself an African American with mental illness, we need support, and we want support from our community, because we can get support from other communities. I've gotten that all day long since my diagnosis up until now. The question is, how much can we be there for ourselves? So that's the message that I want you to get from this. I got out of the hospital feeling great, feeling very empowered. And then I realized because of the diagnosis and the ignorance behind it, I was alienated and I was in need because I had financial issues that had nothing to do with me being bipolar, that just existed prior to the diagnosis. And I lost a roommate, and then eventually the apartment was about to be lost. But I will tell you that story and how that went down and all the details of how I got to Texas, because that's all a part of my bipolar journey. And I want to share and be as candid as I possibly can be. I hope in me sharing, I'm not offending anyone. That's why I'm not naming any real names. And the only reason why I continue to name my Aunt Rose is because she plays an important role in my life. She has assisted me with DawnDares2Dream. So we have a good relationship now, but she is the place where I believe I felt safe enough to crash and break and let go. She was that soft ground that I could fall on and I knew I would be taken care of. Now, I didn't know that at the time, but I'm thinking somewhere inside of my being, I knew that that was the best spot for me. And she was there, and she stood up so that I could get diagnosed and know what was wrong with me. And then after that, she got a little afraid and she ran away. And I don't blame her, people, because again, I was acting a plumb fool in her house when I did my crash. So, because when you come off of a manic high and you are hitting your low, it's dramatic, because in all of this, you're holding on to bits and pieces of your sanity. So that being said, I understand her fear because of having witnessed that. I just expected more from everyone because I needed support, and I needed that emotional support. And I'm not a person who asks for a lot of help. I pretty much don't ask for help at all. So to be honest with you, coming out of the hospital thinking that I was going to have support, I didn't think I needed to ask for it. But then I didn't have it, and I just functioned. And I made it. And if you have any questions about how do you support a person when they come out of the hospital, I believe I'm going to answer some of those questions in videos to come. So if you just keep watching the series, I will provide more and more of my personal life story that can help you if you have encountered or will encounter someone with a mental illness. Because if we didn't need you before, we definitely really need you now. So I have juiced the grapefruit, I've juiced the lime. So we're going to begin to put this together. Now the cocktail calls for 1.5 ounces of the mezcal. And the mezcal that I'm using is clear mezcal. I believe it comes just like tequila in the different colors because of the aging process. So we have that, and we're supposed to do 1/2 ounce of lime juice. Let's see what we have. I almost made it. I didn't quite make it, so I'm gonna put a little bit more in here. That should get me there. And then it calls for 1 ounce of the grapefruit juice, which looks like I have way more than 1 ounce. I'm spilling it. There we go. So we have the grapefruit juice. And then it calls for 1/2 ounce of the, can you see that, the color? It's kind of like lime green looking. 1/2 ounce of, there you go, you can see it like that. And I'll put a little bit more in there. You know, I like my sweet. And I believe that's everything. So we are going to shake her up. Shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. Shake your booty. Shake your booty. Ow. Shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. Shake your booty. Shake your booty. I sing that song because I like it. But I also sing it because it gives me my count for how long I should shake my drink. There we go. So I need to put some ice in this glass and then we'll pour this in. Oh, before I do the ice, I need to sugar the rim. So what I'm gonna do is I'm dipping it in this grapefruit juice and then we'll stick it here. See how much of this I get on here. It's getting a little bit. We have a little bit on the rim. There we go. Take that back. Now we're gonna put some ice in the glass. So we place the ice in there. We're also gonna add in a sprig of rosemary in there as well. And we're gonna cut a lime. Sorry, we're gonna cut a grapefruit wedge. Stick that on here too. Guess I should put that up there so you can see it. There we go. And now we'll pour. I think it's the seeds from the grapefruit. It's having a hard time coming out. Okay, there we go. This here. So take a look at that. Lovely, lovely, lovely drink. So again, the takeaway should be to support and embrace the person when they come out, because they're gonna need it. If you don't know much about what they've been diagnosed with, research it. I did a lot of research about being bipolar when I was released so that I could understand what my triggers were, what made me go manic, what makes me depressed, or watching out for my swings, because I can tell when I am depressed. Now, I don't get too depressed anymore. I used to. But I can tell my energy level is lower. And that's how I know that if I wasn't medicated, this probably would be a deeper swing than what it is. Now, my highs now, I still have highs. I'm not hypomanic or, you know, the high one where you lose touch with reality. But I am a very happy person. So there is a level where I'm a little more happy, I would say. And I know it, and I have a little bit more energy. Just like when I'm down, I have a little less energy, I have more energy. And to be honest with you, I take advantage of it because I know that I'm not gonna live in this space forever. So if I have a lot of things I need to do for work, I do it. Like things where I need to have high energy level and some serious focus to do, I make sure I do them when I am in that state. So I'll also do a video that talks about using your mental illness as a benefit, using it to your advantage, to your mental advantage in the things that you do daily and how you interact and what you can accomplish and get done. So there are positives to these things and there are negatives to these things. And if you research, a lot of geniuses had mental illnesses. And so I laugh when you know, they'll say, like, I think they say Einstein might have been bipolar or something, I think. And I laugh because I think about the mind power that it takes to come up with the things that he came up with and the theories that he came up with. And it takes extreme brilliance. And in my opinion, when you're on the verge of, when you have extreme brilliance, it's like you're on the verge of insanity. And so that's why I laugh. But as I tell my story, I'll explain more because this series is for people who don't know much about bipolar people or people who have mental illnesses in general. And it's also for the people who have the mental illness. So if you're having trouble navigating things, I'm here to kind of show you what I've done and the blueprint that I've used. Maybe one day I'll write a book. I don't know, but I know that I'm unique in the way that I approach things. So I thought that I should share. So let me taste this drink. Cheers. It's good. The rosemary does something, because mezcal kind of has a interesting flavor. It doesn't taste like tequila does at all. But the earthiness of it, I'm going to say, the way mezcal tastes, the rosemary complements that very well. And it does need sugar because this is so earthy. Then you have grapefruit juice in here, which isn't sweet, and lime, which isn't sweet. And with all the earthiness going on, I see why they recommended using simple syrup, but not just any simple syrup, the one with rosemary, because it complements the liquor very well. So if you like this video, give me thumbs up. Also remember there's a share button down here with an arrow. So what you need to do is click on that and share this to your social media platform. For most of us, it may be Facebook. Leave me a comment if you have any questions about the topic or about this beverage. I am going to give you the name of this beverage in the name of the video, and I'm going to put it in the description. And my face is going to be up here in a circle. So click on my face, select the gray bell, select all, and that way you'll be subscribed to my YouTube channel and you'll be alerted to the new content that I place here on YouTube. But if you've already subscribed, you don't have to worry about that. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Just give me some thumbs up. Have a great day, dreamers.